Sky, do you need to share your screen?
I do not. Thank you.
Okay, perfect.
I wish I was that tech. All right. I'm going to give it another minute. While we're there, if anyone is available to turn on their camera and just explain how long they've been in the business and sort of what they wanted out of today, that would be awesome. It doesn't seem like we have too many. So if a lot pop in, we'll just go really fast. But if people could just do that, that would be amazing. But I'll have to wait for you to put cameras on because I don't want to call on someone and find out they're not there. Hey, Mallory, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Good.
I'm sorry it's so noisy. My air conditioning broke in my car today. So we've got windows open. So I'm going to...
No problem. Today is not the day to lose your AC for sure. What else do I have? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing. Elena, is that your name? Hi. Do you want to introduce yourself and how long you've been in business?
Me?
Yes, please.
My name is Alina. In business, this is fourth year, or I think, yes, fourth year. I was in Ravis before, came to Keller Williams, love it. And I don't know what else.
That's awesome. Okay, thank you. I know I'm just trying to find out if we have any new agents, if anyone wants to raise their hand, if they're new, just so I know. If everyone's experienced, then it's kind of a different conversation. So I just don't want to, I'm getting Mallory. So Mallory, you're new? You can nod. Okay, excellent. Is anyone else on the call new?
Yes, Skylar, I'm new.
Awesome. Is that Stuart?
Yep.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Oh, and Kristen's new. Okay, awesome. So we have a mixed group. So here's the thing. I'm not like a teacher. I'm just me. And what you see is what you get. So I really welcome anyone to stop me, ask questions, ask why do you do it that way. I'm just sharing what I do and what has worked for me. And sometimes people are like, that's the craziest thing I've ever heard. And otherwise they're nodding along like, yep, that's what we do too. If you're new, so some people will ask me many more questions because they're like, well, why? I'm new. I thought this was not done that way. And if I go into materials and you're like, I don't have that, that's not a problem either. And I'll try and stop. Is anyone on here either commercial or work primarily with investors? I'm getting nothing. Okay, good. Because those are a little bit different too. And if you have questions about that, I'm happy to talk about how I treat those a little bit differently for listing appointments because their focus is a little bit different than the way I might go into list a personal home where emotions might be higher. If it's all going to be data and numbers, you might prepare a little bit differently. Not everyone does, but I personally do. Okay, so let's get started. I have a small guideline to remind me to try and stay on track. I talk circularly, so I normally get back to the point, but if I seem to be wandering and anyone wants to bring me on, go for it. I'm also getting a notice. I love the chat, so feel free to post in there. Cameras would be very helpful, guys. And thanks to anyone who's not camera shy. I'll echo that. I work off people's faces. It's much easier for me. If you all look bored, I normally change topics. So with nothing to go off of, I might just talk in circles. So the first thing that I would like to get into is getting ready for the listing appointment, because to me, the listing appointment is kind of like, I'm not a sports person, but I'll use a sports analogy. It's like the big game, but you don't just go to a big game. You would never, ever just show up and be like, I should play. You kind of train, you have to get your stuff in, you've got to build the skills. And in the regards for a listing appointment, for me, that can be several days in advance, depending on the property, or it could be just a couple of hours in advance. But the primary things I need to know on a property when I go for me to feel comfortable, and I am, most of the people on here know about DISC. I'm a high D and a high S. So that means I like data. I really like having it. It makes me feel more comfortable, but I know most of my clients don't want it. So I prepare it. I have it in hand. I bring it with me in hard copy so that if I happen to have another client who likes that too, great. But most of the time, this is for me to know more information and to prepare my questions. So I will go on and find out things about the property. One of the big things is obviously pull the property card. Make sure that that kind of matches what you expect it to feel like. If someone says, I live at 123 Main Street, and it's 3 acres and it's 4 bedrooms, and you pull the property card and it says that it's 1.5 acres and 2 bedrooms, you automatically know you've got something weird going on before you ever step foot on the property. So that just kind of gives me a first step of like, what am I gonna be looking at? I also like to look at the assessed number. I know here in Connecticut, the assessed number doesn't always play into price in the same way, but if I see an assessed number that's for 100,000 and the person's told me on the phone they think they want 750 for it, I kind of know ahead of time I might have a challenge on pricing, right? So those kind of things. Also, if I see that they bought the home in 2008, it gives me an indication that maybe there's going to be something else going on with this, and I might find some of those things out. So property card's my first. I'm legal in background, so I like to pull the deed. There's a number of places you can go find that, and just wherever you like to go find your deed, go find the deed. Make sure that the parties are the people you're supposed to be talking to. I've had it happen once where they weren't. It wasn't that they did anything wrong. It's that the deed was funky. They'd forgotten that their mom had passed, and then the property passed to them, and we had to worry about death certificates and all kinds of things that had we not known the deed wasn't in their name, it would have just been a really fun experience in the middle of a situation. So find out who you're dealing with. Also, if you're going to be meeting with only one person and there's 2 people on the deed, you might want to reassess that meeting, ask if the second person can be there, ask who the second person might be, those kind of things. So you have more information going into your meeting. So property card, deed, those are the 2 big ones for me. If the deed mentions things like there's easements on the property or there's rights of way on the property, I like to highlight them. Actually, I'm also a paper person, so I'll actually highlight that and I'll have it with me to say, I should ask about that. Like, what is that right of way? Does that mean anything? Up in New Hampshire, where I do quite a bit of business, those right of ways can actually be public right of ways where you can't fence that property in. You can't prohibit people from walking across your lawn or walking through your woods. Those are really important things to people, especially if someone's buying for privacy or they just don't know. You want to know that there's other stuff out there. The deed might also explain things that are, maybe there's water rights, maybe there's lake rights, maybe there's restrictions of the use of lakes and water and things like that. So get as much information as you can, and then you'll be feeling like you're more prepared. The day of, I'm very casual. I'm actually wearing shorts with this top today because I thought it would be nice to look presentable, but normally I'm in blue jeans and a t-shirt every day. And so when I have a listing appointment, I need to get myself in a mental place. So the morning of the listing appointment, I actually make a point of dressing in something that makes me feel really excited to get out and go to work. That may be jeans and boots if I'm going to a horse property, but it might mean that I actually put on like a nicer outfit for me that day, or makeup or earrings or whatever your special flavor might be. I know plenty of people who have a wonderful business in flip-flops and Bermuda shorts. So I'm not saying by any stretch it's got to be a specific thing, but start from confidence. Start from a place where you feel good about what you're doing. If you love, your business suit and your special tie, wear it. But if that's not you, try not to shoehorn yourself into something that you're already starting off uncomfortable, because if you start your day uncomfortable, it's probably going to go downhill from there, as opposed to, wow, I feel like amazing and energized. Part of my data collection is the same reason. I like to feel like I know some of what's going on at the property before I get there. So I'm not just, oh, this is so not what I expected. One more thing on research, you can always go on the MLS and see if it's listed before. If you see that it's listed for 3 years in a row and it failed and they went through 3 or 4 agents, you know that there have been problems in that property. Maybe you'll see the price has gone up and down. Maybe you'll see that it's been the same exact agent. Why am I being called in when you've had the same agent 3 years in a row and the property's been on and off the market? So those are all really nice little ways to kind of get a glimpse of like, what is this seller? I've never met these people before. I'm presuming that, right? What am I getting that I know going in a little bit more about the property or about the situation, because it's really nice if you can say, hey, I noticed that you kind of been on and off the market. Like, what was going on? And they're like, I hate realtors. Okay, awesome. Well, why am I here? And I've had it happen. They'll be like, I hate realtors. I don't want to list. But you said you could sell my house. All right. Well, start asking them, what was wrong with those other ones? What in your opinion didn't go well? And I've had people say to me, oh, well, they couldn't close the deal. And after meeting those people and working with them, it was clear it was not about the realtor. It was not their fault. It was really challenging clients, but it gave me a sense like, this is going to be a challenging listing, but that doesn't matter. I just know it going in, like, all right, I might make sure my commission is right where I want it to be. I'm not going to back down off that if I know I'm going to have a challenge ahead of me. So those are other little things you can just do to get ready. So going back to day of, you get up, get going, get yourself feeling really super. I always plan 15 minutes early. That way, if I need gas, if my car breaks down, if you hit every red light from here to the property, whatever it is, you're not panicking, and you're certainly not showing up late for your very first impression with people who don't know you. I have a packet. This is my packet today. If you're new, go get folders from Staples or wherever. If you're in this business for a long time, it can be branded, it can be beautiful, it can be whatever. In that packet, right now I'm a solo agent. I've been on a big team. I've been team lead. I don't care who you are, how long you've been in the business or anything else. Everyone has a team, and my team is in my packet. I today have 2 insurance people, a stager, and a couple of other things in here just so that my clients can go, oh, look, these are the people she works with. These are the people that we're going to need to be working with when we work with her. My professional photographer is normally in there as well. And so this packet to me is never something that we're going to delve into for 45 minutes and kind of parse apart. This is something I'm going to leave with the client. I sometimes mailed it ahead. In COVID, I was mailing these out ahead of time because I'd be Zooming everything. So you can do this remotely too and just FedEx it to them, get it in their hands. The first thing I normally do when I come in, if I have sent it ahead, is say, hey, do you have that packet I sent? And they either say, yeah, or, oh no, where is that? And they shuffle around trying to find it for the next 6 minutes. I also have a listing booklet in there. Oops, there. Mine is spiral bound. I like spiral because it opens flat and lays flat when you're trying to look at it. You're not like flopping the page down, trying to hold it there. But whatever you have works. Mine is a combination of the KW listing presentation coupled with some customized pieces. You'll see I have the little pink tabbies up here. I don't expect any of my clients to have read this, and I don't expect them to sit down and read this. But I put it in the packet, so I might as well use it. And I normally will tab a page that I think is going to be of interest to them and say, oh, wow, look at that. Your customized marketing plan. I know this is hard to see and I apologize. Your customized marketing plan. That's going to go into, you get a photographer. We're going to do some staging. We're going to make sure that this is all about you and your property. And it's not about reading it to them. It's about showing them that you have it, giving yourself validity. But it's also about saying, these are things I want to make sure are important. If they suddenly go, well, what lockbox are you going to be using? We can skip to that section. That's fine. It's not a diehard. It's just trying to make sure that they see that there's something in this packet that they should take a look at and pay attention to. It could be any page in there. If you know that you're in an uphill battle about pricing, maybe you're going to tab the how to price your house properly page. So just don't bring something that's not of value to your client just to have it. On the flip side, provide them with different pieces. The last piece I have in here is a bio sheet. I don't put this in the listing packet. I want it to stand out. I can also use this exact same piece of marketing in 1,000 different ways, whether it be at an open house, whether it be in my buyer packet, whether it be somewhere else. It's pretty high quality paper stock. It doesn't wrinkle easily in humidity. Like today, if we were at an outdoor event or something like that, if I had to have it set up on a table outside an open house, it's substantial. So when people pick it up too, they kind of double take it like, oh, that wasn't what I expected to be picking up. I figure anytime we can make someone pause even a millisecond in our business, we're getting an extra eyeball on something. So whether that's your business card being of a slightly different quality than the person is expecting, whether it's thicker or metal, or I've just seen millions of different things out there, foil on business cards, anything that you kind of go, oh, wait, what am I holding? Like, why am I feeling that? I think we underestimate tactile in our business. And so I like to give people a reason to kind of pause and go, oh, that was different. So that's the listing packet. I bring that with me. I've got my property card, I've got my deed, and I might have the old MLS if that's helpful to me. And I'm dressed for however I think is best for the situation. So probably in something business casual, I'm ready to go. I'm there 15 minutes early. And the first thing I do upon pulling into the driveway, and I try not to block the driveway too much, but sometimes it can't be avoided. The first thing I do is sit in my car. I rush a lot. I talk very fast, as you can tell. And so I like to take at least a minute and sit there and look at the house and go, okay, what is this? Is it a center hall colonial that you've seen? You know, you could probably write the floor plan right now. Is it something very contemporary? Is it a cape? It doesn't matter. Take a picture. And that way you're not going to use that picture for anything. I actually have learned on DocuSign, it's really nice to have that little picture so that 123 Main Street, you've got the little picture and you're like, okay, I got something in there the first day. I know my photographer is going to do a much better job, but it reminds me of like, what was that house? And so I take the picture and I look at the exterior and I think, okay, I've come for the first time. This is how every buyer approaches this house. Every single buyer is going to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And so what am I feeling? Like what needs to be fixed? What's amazing? What are we going to highlight? And also I try and think of one thing I can go in the door and say, that's really nice. Like it might be the azalea out front. It might be the front door color. I don't know. Pick something so you're starting with a compliment. And so that's kind of my first pause, get my act together, get my packet, turn my phone off for sure. You don't want to have that going off in someone else's house. I just find that the height of rudeness. So I'm just ready to go at this point. I also have a notebook and I have a pen or pencil or whatever. Yes, we're in a digital age. Yes, it's great that we have so much technology. Unless you are incredibly good at typing really fast, I think it's hard to take notes on a property as you go through it if you don't have a notebook. So I strongly urge people to have something so they can start jotting notes as they go through the property. There'll be a mess, I'm sure, later, but at least you'll remember, like, were there hardwoods in the kitchen or not? I have no idea. Because it also, if that's different from previous listings, or if that's something that they might want noted, how are you going to remember all that stuff if you don't have a notebook with you? So those are the things: my packet, my notebook, my own data, and then in I go. So I know that Bold teaches a really different listing presentation. And I think that the way that they teach it is amazing. I learned a lot. If you haven't been through Bold, I highly recommend the program, or any other kind of box that it kind of presents these things for us to learn from. I am not as assertive as a lot of these programs want you to be when you go into a listing presentation. It's not who I am. I am much more accommodating. And so they'll say, if they offer you a glass of water, say no. They're not in charge, you're in charge. You decide what you're doing the moment you walk in the door. You decide where you're going. And to me, I'm like, well, I'm being invited into someone's home. That's how I look at this. I'm being invited into someone's home, and I don't need to be that assertive right from the front. I can let them be gracious, and I can let them make some decisions so that from the beginning, they know I'm going to let them make decisions. But they only get two decisions. We're either going to sit and go over the paperwork, or we're going to walk through the house. So that's the first thing. It's not like we're going to go out back and like have iced tea. We're going to do one of two things. We're going to sit and go through paperwork, or we're going to walk through the house. The other items that are in my packet that I completely forgot to bring up is the paperwork. I bring the listing agreement. It is not filled out. I am not filling it out today. That's not my intent. I bring it with me so they get to see it, because there's going to be questions. The only thing I fill out is my commission, the address, and I do put in the seller's names because I'm going to confirm them at this meeting. And the seller's name should match whatever was on the deed, in my opinion, unless you hear otherwise for a specific reason. Like if there's a trust and you know you're dealing with an estate or something of that nature, put whatever's in the deed for now, because the deed rules, in my opinion. I also bring whatever disclosures you like bringing to your listing agreement. There's probably the Connecticut disclosure of agency, unless you've somehow covered that beforehand. There's very often a wire fraud disclosure, right? We're bringing the COVID disclosures for a while. If you have other disclosures you like to bring them. This is the time. And again, I don't fill them out. I'm just bringing them for a couple reasons. In my opinion, when you get to someone's house and you say, oh, you got to sign all this paperwork and this is what it's going to be like and blah, 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 and you're just talking about the paperwork, people are a little anxious. Like, oh, I don't want to sign anything today. They resist us, right? They don't want to sign. That's kind of the thing they learned about realtors. Oh, don't sign. So I bring the paperwork and I say, look, it's all in this packet. Again, remember, they're not going to open this packet with me. We're not going through this packet. Really, my expectation is not that. So it's in the packet and I'll say, oh, there's all these disclosures. They're just disclosures. And I'm highlighting them. This is not a contract. This is a disclosure. And I said, and in there, you'll also see my listing agreement. That is just there as a hard copy for you for further discussion. And they're like, well, we're not going to talk about it. I'm like, if you want it, we can talk about it. And they're like, no, no, no. I got muted. So it's all there. They've got what they need. They're kind of looking at this packet. Normally they're kind of parsing through it. And I was like, do you want to go to the packet or do you want to go through the house? If they want to go through the packet, some people do. We go through the disclosures. We talk about what they are. We talk about the listing agreement, whatever they want. If they want to go through the marketing booklet, we go through it. For the new people on, don't bring paper you can't explain. And I've seen that sadly where you know, I've shadowed with other people and they'll go, yeah, let's go through this booklet. What's this page on technology? What kind of technology do you offer? And the person's like deer in the headlights. They've never seen this page in their own booklet. You're like, that's just a terrible first impression. You don't even know what you've brought to my house. Like, why would you bring it? So make sure you know what's in there. So if you don't have a booklet, that's fine. Maybe you only have a bio sheet or a write-up about great reviews of your clients or whatever. But don't bring something you don't know. So those disclosures, know them. The listing agreement, know it. And often I'll say, you know, everything's in there. I find most people won't even ask me about commission then. That's not really what they're there for yet. And so they've got this informational packet and I'll say, oh, and we have everything digital online. You don't have to sign anything today. I'll be sending you all these documents via email. It's a really easy process. And that way I have them all organized at home rather than trying to edit and do things right now. Now, if you love signing then and there, knock yourself out. I don't like it. So you have to know your own flavor in this business. And I think everyone who's done this for a year or more is like, yeah, you do. So if you love getting them signed then and there, you've got the paper with you, sign it. That's fine. I'm just more of people normally want to work with me once they've gotten to know me because that's how I do business. But if you're a direct salesperson and you can get them to sign it, that's cool too. So then we normally start touring the house and I have a couple different questions I like to ask them because I'm here I've got to list this house. I need to know more about it. And I kind of want to know, are there any problems that I'm going to have to either disclose or just what are we going to be dealing with? So we start and I say, please tell me the things you absolutely love about this house, whether it be this one room, whether it be the whole thing, the view, the whatever. And as we go through, please point out anything you've done since you've moved into this house. So I'm looking for what have they done, right? What upgrades, what wonderful additions have they done? And I'm also, and Steve knows there's a huge pessimist side of me. I'm looking for what's not permitted. What have they done that they have failed to tell anyone else in the world about that might come back to haunt us? We all know the finished basement that's not included in the square footage with the town. We've all heard the stories of, you know, the brand new bathroom when you only have 2 bathrooms on record, but suddenly your house has 3. And so I just want to know ahead of time, like, is there stuff that these folks have done that raises an alarm bell? There's a wood burning stove in the living room that they added 2 years ago. Those are things that are going to come back that we all are going to need to know about. Like, all right, well, the fire marshal's not going to love that. So it helps to hear what's going on because I'm going to write about the wonderful features they've put in, the crown molding, the granite countertops, the redone bathroom that's just exquisite. But I also want to hear what might we have on our hands that I'm going to have to figure out what to do with now. And then as they go through, they normally are very comfortable talking about their own house. So I love the birds here. And a lot of this is just building rapport. It's just, please talk, people like people who let them talk. So they feel like there's great rapport because they're talking. And I'm just asking, what did you like about your house? If they ask me questions about, oh, well, what do you think I should do with this room? We are now calling it a staging consultation because staging sounded very intimidating to people. I pay for a staging consultation for each and every home. It doesn't matter price range. And I get asked that a lot. What if it's only X price? Doesn't matter. We're going to stage them all. We're going to provide a staging consultation. It's about 2 hours. It's a professional stager. They come in, they go through the property with the client. They will point out all the things that they think should be done to showcase the property in the best light possible. There's loads of data, and you can ask any stager for the data numbers. They'll all give you them because this is what their business is based off of. But the percentage of increase in list price, sale price, whatever we want to talk about, the percentage is real for staged homes versus unstaged homes. So if your person's selling a condo at 150, it doesn't matter. They're still going to make more money if it's staged than if it wasn't. And people will say to me, well, why do you pay for it? And I said, well, we all work on commission. The higher the price, the higher my commission. So I'm paying for the staging to increase my commission. Yes, it's a very nice thing that my homes are staged and they look fantastic and people know that about listing with me. But you do the math and you're paying for yourself easily. Maybe not if all you do is 160 homes, it might be harder to recoup your money. But let's say you get one 160 and one at 400 and one at $1 million. Well, you just paid for your year of staging for any listing you have. So I can't speak highly enough for staging. The consultation also means I never answer the question of what do you think you should do with this room? I don't want to be the bad guy. I want to be liked. I want to be brought in as, wow, we like working with her. I don't want to deliver the bad news. I'm going to have plenty of bad news to deliver down the road. So I let the stager do that. Someone just said, how much does the stager cost me? It does vary. You have to talk to your stager about what they're willing to do for you. Right now, my current stagers are charging me between $200 and $250, depending upon the location, because if they have to drive far, they charge me an extra driving fee, which I happily pay. And who is my stager? I am not using a Connecticut stager right this minute. I have 2 names I can refer people to. But the woman I'm using right now is in Massachusetts primarily. And we will definitely, Sherry Lee, I'll get those numbers to you. But you can also just ask around. And again, this is another great way to build up that portfolio of people in your booklet. Everyone should have stagers. Maybe you're going to get an amazing listing that needs staging, but also go out and talk to some. They might suddenly be like, oh, wow, we really like Maria. She's fantastic. We want to get her back in here. Or I just met Maria. She seems really cool and my sister needs to sell. The stager is not a licensee. They're gonna refer out people. Maybe they're working with someone amazing, but maybe they're like, oh, well, those amazing people, they all do those $1 million listings. And this is just a $500,000 condo. Well, I want the $500,000 condo. So just get out there and start meeting these people. I also use my booklet as an annual reminder of there should not be a person who's in there year after year after year without conversation and use. So if they get my booklet, I like working with them. I have quite a few different insurance people that have very, very different products that they can offer to my equine clients. So I'm constantly interviewing more people to be like, well, can you provide even more? With the move down to Connecticut, it was, all right, who of my providers can cover New Hampshire, Mass, and Connecticut? Because I'm going to have clients in all 3 and I'd rather use one person. So we do the same thing with lenders. We do the same thing with attorneys. And you can bring any of those people along with you in your booklet. The booklet is totally up to who you think are important people to work with. So those are kind of conversations to be having along the way, and always remind them that you're in the business and that you would love their referrals just as much as we love working with them. So that's the stager piece of all this. And as you're going through, I'll say, oh, and my stager's going to come in and they're going to be here for 2 hours, and they'll go, oh, this isn't the kind of house that needs staging. And it opens up a door for me to go, oh my gosh, every house needs staging. It's your best foot forward. It's your digital impact. It's your whatever, right? And then we go into the conversation about the professional photography. I'm not going to be here with my iPhone. Trust me, this is not what you want from me. I'm here to make sure the right professionals are brought into your house to do the right job so that we get everything done by the best people possible. I'm not the best stager and I'm not the best photographer. And I bring those people to you because I know how important they are. So the conversation as we're wandering around is already my listing presentation, right? So you're getting the sense of like, we're not sitting at the table, me doing a formal listing presentation where I'm stuffing information at them. It's just coming up in conversation, and they almost never go back to it. They're like, oh, okay, she does staging, she does photography, she does these things. And we get to the table and they're like, well, what else do we have to talk about? I don't know. What else do we have to talk about? And at this point, a lot of people say, well, they would ask, all right, who am I up against? I never ask. I never ask. If they offer it, I'll be like, oh, they sound great. They'll be like, do you know them? No, probably not. Or if I do know the agent, I'll be like, yeah, they're great. They're really nice at what they do. And they're like, well, what do you do differently? And I'll say, well, I do the staging and I do the professional photography, and I'm really good at my job. And I'm going to market to all these different avenues. And we'll talk about, you know, what I might do differently, but I'm never there to trash the other agent. I think most KW agents get that, but I think you can't say it enough. Like, we're not here to badmouth the other people. We're here to say, we're amazing. We're amazing at what we do. We're the best person for this job. If you don't believe that, you might want to refer the listing, because you should go in with that confidence. That's why you got up that morning. You put on the clothes that made you feel powerful. You got your packet together so you're prepared. You're there, you're amazing. And that needs to come through, because then a lot of these other questions, they don't usually come up in my experience. So I'd rather avoid the conversation of my commission if I can. If they don't ask, I'm sure as heck not going to sit there and be like, well, I get this many apples. Why ask? They're like, oh, okay, that's how many apples you get. Is that normal? There's no normal in our business. This is just what I charge because I know the quality of the product I'm going to deliver for you. Okay. And they just go on with their day. And there we go. Do you present differently to someone who says they just want home estimation value, but obviously they're thinking of selling? No, I don't do differently for really anything. I go in assuming I have the listing, and that sounds really cocky, and it sounds much braver than I actually am in real life. I'm never sure I get the listing ever, but I go in talking about when we list, when the stager comes, when the photographer is here. This is the timeline we use. I have learned not to ask for it. I have learned to tell them I'm here to do the job. It's up to them to tell me I don't have the job. And that's kind of how I look at this whole process. No one has to lose in order for us to win. Exactly. If you go in with that, and it's not cocky, you can't be arrogant about it. Like, oh, I got the job. But if you go in just talking and using the language of when we do this, when we do that, that's why I don't ask. I don't want to know. It'll only undermine my confidence to know that there's 17 other agents on this listing appointment with me. I just want to go in thinking, I'm the only one they're interviewing. I'm the only one they're talking to. And if they bring up other people, we can talk about, well, what are they offering that I'm not? Or is there something that I'm not answering for you or whatever else? But I like to go in with the confidence and the air of, I've got this. We just need to explain to you why I'm the best person for this job today. And then the only thing that I might do differently on a presentation is I've had now 2 where the house is truly a teardown. We're not talking about a flip. We're talking about a teardown. And when those people say to me, stager, I'm like, well, we could still stage it. It'd still be better off if we could get all the hoarding stuff out of this, building. But I know it's going to be really a teardown, and that, especially in the equine business, this comes up where maybe the barns and the horse amenities are something we can sell and market. I will discuss with them the fact that we're not going to have a stager go through this particular home. And I'll say, we normally do this. We normally would do this. But in this particular case, after reviewing your home, I don't feel it's as necessary. I think the main thing here is to have the barn spit clean or whatever it is. If it's a real investment property and you have a tenant and there's nothing you can do about the tenant, the conversation will go more that way. Will you have a tenant in place? I'm not going to be able, maybe that can get my stager in. Sometimes I can get a stager into a tenant occupied place. That's great. I have one of those right now. We're getting painters in, the tenant's incredibly cooperative. If you are on a listing appointment and there's a tenant in place, you need to have that discussion. Do we have to do this before the tenant's term is up? So the tenant's in place. Can we wait till the tenant's out? What are the consequences of waiting that period of time? Maybe they're good, maybe they're bad. Maybe the seller can't afford the loss of income. And so you need to be realistic, and maybe the stager can't come, maybe they can't come. I've also had clients who the stager came. I stopped doing physical staging because we did physical staging for 3 hours in the house. And when I went for photos the next day, the seller had put everything back. Make sure they buy in. And my conversation on the staging is, they're going to come in, they're going to consult with you, they're not going to touch a thing. They're going to give you a list of, here's what we think you should do. That list is going to be every room. If it's too much, don't do any of it. If it's too little, or do the whole list. That's great if you can accomplish it all, because this will lead into pricing. And they'll say, well, what is my house list for? And I don't normally answer that question at this appointment. That's part of my follow-up. You don't get my answer today because I might not know it. A lot of horse properties, I won't know the property well enough to be able to give you a gut right then and there. I'll have to come back, and after I've looked again at comps and much more detailed investigation into like the type of property and the finishes of the home and all that. But even on a more neighborhoody feel in a suburban environment, I very often will say at most a range. And I'll say, well, this range is dependent on how much staging you decide to do. If you decide to paint the walls, get rid of the holes, fix the window, fix the broken door, upgrade refresh the bathroom, whatever it is, that's up here. If you do nothing, that's down here. And so pricing is not up to me. Pricing is up to you guys as sellers to figure out. And they'll very often be like, wait, what? And I was like, it's all up to you. You do the work, you're going to get more money. You don't do the work, we're going to have to be a little bit lower on the price. And the other major thing is, especially in our market right now, but in a downward market is just as equally important. Time matters. I'm not going to price your house if you don't plan to list for 3 months. So I'll give you a today price, but we'll discuss about the fact that this could go up or down depending upon what you guys decide to do and how fast you decide to do it. And so again, it's not me giving the bad news of a price. I'm giving them an opportunity to increase their price. So maybe they don't like my top number, and maybe they're like, wow, that's lower than we'd hoped for. But I'm not saying it's this number set in stone right here. I'm telling them that there's things that are going to matter, their market fluctuation. And I'm also telling them there are things they can do to improve that number. We'll also have a conversation sometimes about, oh, well, we were thinking about doing an epoxy seal on the garage floor. What do you think about that? And I pause a minute, I kind of collect my thoughts like, oh, that's not where I thought this was going to go. And I'll say, well, how much do you think that's going to cost? And they'll throw out whatever number it might be. And I'll say, okay, well, I don't think that's going to get you back anywhere near that in value for listing. But if that's something that would bring you joy, I definitely think you should do it. And they will pause and they'll be like, well, no, we're going to move out of it. And I was like, oh, well, then I don't think that's where I would spend my money. I think I'd spend my money on painting the living room. You know, the chartreuse you picked out might go to a gray or a beige. And kind of start steering them in the direction that you think maybe would be a little bit more conducive for their money. Or in this market, and I know a lot of people say, we don't stage in this market, and I couldn't disagree with that more. You want to make sure that they're beginning to hear like, those are not the decisions that we should be focused on. Again, you're already putting yourself out there as the expert. So they're going to say, oh, well, she said not to do that, or she said to do that. So those are all just little pieces of, you know, as you go through, and it depends. Maybe they've got a spectacular home and the only thing missing is that epoxy floor because they have a 6-bay garage and they've got a lift and they've got a this and they've got a that. Maybe that person should epoxy their floor, but they have to kind of have a reason for it. And it has to make economic sense for me to agree to go with that. I would love to open this up for questions. We have a little bit, I think we're set for an hour. So we have over 20 minutes. I do not need to talk more. The one thing before we go to questions, the next day is when I follow up. That's when they get their numbers. That's when they get normally a call from me, a text from me, whatever form of communication they like. Do not leave the house without everybody's email and phone number and preferred method of contact. Because very often you'll only have one person's. You'll have the person who called you, but maybe not both people on the deed. From the moment you leave, you should be communicating with both parties unless they've told you otherwise at that meeting. Because if they're both on the deed, they both need to be involved in all the decisions. So I like to make sure that everybody's information is at that meeting. Because before that, sometimes it's impossible. You're not going to get one partner's name if you've only been talking to the other partner. But make sure that you have those data points because you're going to want to make sure that they all get it I also follow up with a handwritten note mailed to their house. It normally takes obviously about a week, but that way it's a reminder that comes without me having to think about it. And I just say, thank you so much for inviting me into your home. I really look forward to working with you. And if there's something that I need to address in that note, I can. But remember, it's going to be a week and you're probably going to have multiple conversations before that week is up, and you might not get the listing, but at least it's a nice little thing that would set you apart from other people. How many people send a handwritten note after a listing appointment? Not that many. So those are just little things I like to do. And sometimes I hear even after I didn't get it, wow, we really thought that note was great. We'd love to refer our sister to you. Cool. Okay. That works too. So please, questions, things you do differently. Why would I do it that way? What have people got out there?
I have some questions.
Yeah, go.
I'm a new agent here.
Hi.
So what I'm finding is I know, a lot of agents, you have your listing packet. I'm trying to start obviously from scratch of a listing packet. Command is, I went on and there's templates, but it doesn't let you save a page at a time, and it doesn't let you send as a PDF. Then I find some things online and they're PDFs. So I don't know if you would know this because you're not a new agent, but you mentioned something at the very beginning about your packet, and I wasn't too sure what you said. About something that you got from somewhere, and I didn't really, wasn't too sure where that was.
And I'm going to ask Steve or anyone else to jump in if what I'm saying is no longer right. My packet was 2 years ago now, and it was through KW Connect. There was a marketing section where you had listing packets. I did, though, have a private person compile everything for me to make it look uniform, because as you're saying, like sometimes it's in this form and that form. I do believe, and Steve, nod if I'm right, there's now something through Command that is a listing presentation.
Yeah, but I'm finding is if you can find a person who's actually used it, because I just spent hours, and it's not very intuitive, but it's not even so much that it doesn't let you like edit. It's very confusing. I can't explain it, but I just would love to know if someone's done it, because that's what I'm finding. Everyone's saying, oh, go to Command or go to here. But when you actually do it, you can't save it and be able to edit it. Or I don't know.
Nicole
my
got
son's
help
very
for us, I
tech
think.
savvy.
Nicole?
And
Yes,
Mhm.
hi.
Yeah.
So I actually am on Jen's coaching team.
okay.
And as part of one of the foundations is creating this listing document. Because at first it's kind of very overwhelming when you just look at it. I just completed the foundation and I'm actually having a one-on-one at 2 o'clock. But when you go into Command, you have to go into the designs. And
Yeah,
there-
that I know.
in there, and if you pick one of the templates, you can edit it and drop your photo in there. It's very, once you understand.
No, but I just a question for you. When you edit it and I dropped my photo in and you edit it, could you only do it one page at a time, or could you make it a PDF?
You can make it a PDF event. You can download it into a PDF on the template, but you want to modify it.
Obviously.
But you can download it in a PDF and you can save it as a PDF. It comes down as a PDF, and you can also have it as a Word document file. It's very,
I couldn't get it to do that, so maybe I'll just call you after.
Yeah, I would check in with tech, because I know in the past too, I mean, if you have a marketing person do this, they literally data input it all into their own stuff. The key is maybe you don't need it yet, right? Like if it sounds like it's too complicated and
No, I'm not going from a complicated, I'm going from, I understand, I'm not gonna have a big packet like you. No, I'm just going from just some
Also, hey,
papers.
quick thing.
Tech
Also-
one-on-one also helps to make it easy.
Quick thing, if you break the template in half, so half the beginning will be your pre-listing and the second half will be your actual listing, that also works. Yeah, because that's a big packet. There's like 30 pages in there. It's a lot. So what they told me was, yeah, just the first
No,
half
that's
will be
not-
your pre-listing.
You know what, this is like gotta be on one-on-one, that's because that's not what I'm talking about, but regardless, I don't
But
want to.
also, real quick, once you save it, you can't change it, but it saves the template that you did on the command so that you can edit.
And for those, like, I'm just not tech savvy enough at
Yeah.
all, Renee.
And that's what I do. Like,
Yeah.
I just change the name of each client on my template, which I save,
No, not
and
that I
then
know.
I just print that.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I just saved mine as a PowerPoint. I just saved my my whole, whatever I wanted, I saved it to a PowerPoint, and then I was able to add different custom pages into it.
Great. Or if
And
you
I
have a
think that's the
PDF
key here too.
printer.
Like everyone's, I know we have digital listing presentations. We've got, I mean, there's so many things out there. The key is to find the one that works for you, that you go, this is just what I
Right.
do.
But,
Um,
I guess what I was saying too is there was something that I found that was from Keller Williams, but it wasn't editable. It wasn't being able to edit it. It was PDF. So that's, which was.
Yeah,
seemed
that's,
very
if you save
helpful.
it to PowerPoint, you'll be good.
Yeah. And I know Chris is writing in here too, that you can edit PDFs with Adobe Acrobat DC, which is a
Okay.
paid per month. And I think there also used to be one, not WordPress, it had a name, but
Okay.
there are these things that can modify PDFs. Just be careful with those because you have to make sure
I don't
all
have
of,
enough time.
yeah, well, and all of your marketing and branding, just to make sure that everyone understands, like you're leaving something at people's houses, make sure you're following the marketing and branding rules.
Of course,
So that's always, like all of this stuff, if it's somebody else's, if it's another vendor's piece, that's not as much your problem. But if you've got any kind of presentation packet sheet, whatever you're doing, make sure you've got the right stuff on there, because it's the one thing that can get us in a lot of trouble. You leave a bio sheet and it just talks about you all day and never mentions Keller Williams Realty, you're going to have a problem at the end of the day. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, sorry that took too much time out of it.
Oh, no, it's
Guy,
good. All
yeah,
the- yeah.
what do you put in for your marketing pay information? Like, how do you say you're going to, promise to market the listing?
So it's more general on what I have, and it goes into the fact that every single property is going to have a custom marketing plan. And we talk about, so in my world, horse people don't normally want a sign. So we don't normally get to have signs. They don't want lock boxes. I'm almost all personal showings. And that's because they've got businesses, they've got animals, they've got a huge amount of liability that they can't just have people showing up at the property and seeing it. We've all, during COVID, we had all this up in the air stuff where some people didn't want showing, some people, so I just make sure that they know it's customizable. Everything that they get, I don't care. In Colorado, we lived in these developments where we have 450 homes and there's 5 models. So everyone's home is the exact same home, and yet still we would push, we're going to customize marketing for you. Every question is going to be a question to you about what do you want? How much of this do you want? Is this okay with you? And again, it goes back to my question of, for the person who says absolutely refuse the glass of water, this is not going to work well for you. So maybe your marketing plan says this is what's going to be. And I do have that little chart about the open houses. I don't know if you've seen the KW block where, some people just put the house on the MLS. Some people put it on the MLS and then send out a postcard. So, and by the end of the KW stuff, it's, wow, we do everything. And you show them this block. That's in there. But I found a lot of pushback because people were like, I don't want an open house. I don't like them. I think it's all about helping the agent, not the house. All right. So the next page goes into customizing a plan that works for you and your family. And so that's how we kind of do it is, and it doesn't say family in there because that would be a violation. So we just talk about customizing the plan for you. And that way the client is getting to see, like, we're here to work with you, your property, your rules. And then I can't remember, Diane, if you want, I'm happy to give a copy of these to anybody who wants it. But the plan talks about developing your personal plan, pricing your home strategically, providing the resources for staging, utilizing custom professionals, just listed notices, optimizing the internet presence, social media presence, high def virtual tours. I also am one of those believers who every house gets almost the same exact amount of media. The only difference being video, because some houses are not good for video because they're smaller. Most houses, floor plans, every house. That way people can visualize it and figure out what they want. Also for all those properties that don't match their property card, the floor plan gives a much better game plan for a buyer of like what is actually at the house. So if it's a 3-bedroom septic, but there's clearly 4 bedrooms, you're going to see that on the floor plans. Whatever I market, maybe I market office, but you're going to know there's 4 of them on the second floor and they all center around 2 bathrooms. It's pretty clear to the buyer, like, oh, that office could be used. So those are things I do for every property. So I do go into that in the presentation on that page. If somebody says, what's your plan? Those are all things I bring up.
Right. Yeah, I would love to have that.
Absolutely. Happy to get one for you.
Okay.
If you
Thank
do,
you.
afterwards, let's stay online and I'll get your information.
Okay.
Stephen put in, what is the percentage of listing appointments to listings taken? Valerie, awesome question. I used to have it at 100% almost, but I don't get asked out to a lot of traditional residential properties. So my point there is I'm normally one of the only people they can call for what they're doing. It's very rare I lose an equestrian property because there just aren't many people that they're going to call who have even close to the knowledge I do. There's probably 3. And there's a reason why they haven't called at least one of them. They'll tell me that when I get there. And then the other person they might not even know because it's just harder to find us. In the equestrian world, it's rare. I don't get it. In the and that changed this year. I lost one. And so I went, okay, I lost that one. That's my first. In the residential market, I really don't know. It's got to be around 80% though. It's very rare that I go somewhere and I don't get the listing. And that's, again, it's not to be arrogant or cocky. It's because I don't do much marketing. I don't do any cold calling. So people are normally calling me saying, oh, hey, Valerie called and said I should talk to you about listing my house. Now, it might be they're calling 3 people, but I've got Valerie already vouching for me, or I've got Facebook saying, oh, I saw your stuff on Facebook and I love what you do with the video. Okay, we'll make sure you get video then, even if you're, a 900 square foot home, we'll make sure video is what you get if that's what drove you to me. So I get a lot of word of mouth and sphere referrals. So those tend to be a much higher percentage of turnaround because they wouldn't be calling you if they hadn't found you somewhere else. I'm not going out and finding them. So that's kind of a difference. But again, if you go in with the attitude of every single one is like that, it's just going to change how you incorporate. And when you don't get them, sometimes you'll wonder, somebody else asked, like, what if you're going there for evaluation? Yeah, sometimes I go for evaluation. Maybe they list with someone else and I don't know about it, but I wasn't there for the listing. I was there for the valuation and I gave that. So it's a little bit different. And also for evaluations, they get the range also. They don't get a single number. So they can't play me and say, oh, well, you said 450 and this other person said 475. No, I gave you that range. I told you that range was flexible on time too, because sometimes they'll interview someone else 3 months later. Well, yeah, of course it went up in 3 months. Like, look at our market. It's going to go up in 3 months. Does your commission vary depending on property type? What is your typical commission? Steve, that is a question I cannot answer. I will say I'm over what a lot of people charge. My favorite one is so-and-so will do this for 1% less. And I look at them and I say, I know. And they go, well, would you do it for 1% less? No. Why not? Well, I know what I'm going to do for your property. And I can't do less than that. Because people will say, well, you should just say, oh, what do you want me to take out? Do you want me to take out the marketing? Do you want me to take out the professionalism? Do you want me? I can't do this job half-baked. So if you want me and what I bring to the table, this is what it's going to cost you. If you want something else, there are other people who will do something else, but I only know how to do this. I'm a one-trick pony in that regard. I only know how to do incredible high quality. I'm going to lose sleep over your deal. I guarantee it. Doesn't matter who you are. And that's just how I do business. So no, I won't do it for that commission. It's not worth my time, effort, and energy and experience and expertise. But I know other people will. And I know there are other people who will charge you more. I know that I'm in that kind of ballpark of, they'll do it for much higher and they'll do it for lower. And so it's just different. Now, I also used to say, I won't change my commission, and that's not fair or true. Of course I change my commission. If someone is going to buy and sell with me, there's going to be a part of me that says, wow, like, okay, we're going to have a buyer agency agreement and we're going to have a listing agreement. And I always document those things. I'm not a person who will work without a buyer agency agreement. I've been burned way too many times. So the answer there is I'm more than happy at the second closing to put some money towards your prepaid and closing costs in the amount of X percentage. So it's normally a small percent. It's normally about 0.02% that I'm willing to give you if you're going to buy, sell. And they'll go, oh, but I don't have to pay you as a buyer. And I'm like, right. So I'm going to basically give you a credit based on the sale price of your home, so that instead of it being, whatever the percentage I said it was, it's going to be 0.02% less than that, or 0.2% less than that. And they go, oh, So I'm like getting some cash back. I'm like, yeah, I'm putting cash back in your pocket after you close on your buy. And they go, okay. And they kind of get it. Like, it is complicated. I understand that. But I've had people who listed with me because I said, oh, I'll drop my commission because you're going to buy, sell with me. And then guess what? They didn't buy with me. Sometimes it's not intentional. Sometimes they get moved out of state. Sometimes it's whatever. But I just lost money on the sale that I could have had in my pocket. So I put it on the second to close. And that way they get some money back. They feel better about their lives. Their net is higher. But I'm not losing money if they don't go into that second sale for whatever reason. I don't want to bear that cost. And that's what Lisa just asked. Yeah. What if they don't end up buying with me? Then they don't get that percentage back. So then they'll just pay me my regular commission on the listing of their home, and they go off and they buy with someone else. That's totally fine. But then I'm really comfortable because I've made my usual commission. So I have no beef about that. That's all I was ever entitled to.
I have a question.
Please.
I know you mentioned that you never give them a price, you just give them a range to work with.
Mhm.
Is that the normal strategy? Because some, like, let's say you're like the sixth person in line that they're interviewing and they have a number.
Right.
And they present that to you, and you know they feel very strongly about it. How do you kind of fit in that interview with them, saying, look, I have a number, and you're like saying, no, I will give you this range. How do you maneuver that and still leave it positive and them having confidence in you?
So that's a great question. And I think one of the things is in this discussion, as you're going through the home, or you're sitting and talking about the paperwork, whatever they choose, you're going to have a conversation. Normally they won't answer. Normally you'll say, what do you guys hope to get out of it? And they're like, as much as possible. And you're like, okay, fair. But if they said, but I really want to get 475 out of this. And I'm looking at it and I'm going, well, I could get you 480. I'll be like, well, that sounds like a doable situation. Let's get this done. And they're all excited. Or if you know, like it's going to be 430 tops, you go, that's going to be a stretch in this market. That's going to be a stretch. I know things are going over. I know that, I said, you're really going to have to get this house in true move-in fashion then, or whatever it is. And so again, it's going back to them. What are you guys going to do then to get that number that you really want? Now, I will go, my rule that I always said, I will never change this rule. We all change everything in our lives. That's just the way real estate works. Eventually you'll break your never, ever, or always rule. I used to say I wouldn't overprice a home. That's just kind of a personal problem of mine. I'll walk away from a listing before I overprice it. I normally have about 10%. So if you want to go 10% over what I think you should be at, we're probably in a general ballpark of, okay, let's try it. I don't think it's a great idea. We'll talk about the chart of listing too high and chasing the market down and all those conversations, but we might start. You have to decide as an agent what agent perception you want to have. For me, I want people to know that when they see my listing, it's priced appropriately, it's going to be staged well, and it's going to be presented in the best way possible. I want that for both agents watching me and for clients and potential clients watching me. So overpricing, to me, I've actually canceled contracts when it's evident that we're overpriced and I cannot get the seller to drop the price. We'll just cancel the contract and I walk away. I know people who say, oh, do the step down every month, whatever. People learn who those agents are. If I see a listing by a certain agent at a high price and I go, wow, that's high, I'm like, I'll tell my clients, we can wait a month and they'll probably drop it because that's what they tend to do with their clients. So just be conscious of your decision that you make on pricing. My clients have never once said to me, well, that person said 473 and you're saying 470 and I can't possibly work with you with that number. I mean, I don't know anyone who's that good at their game that they can guarantee within $5,000 of a price of a home in any market. So I think that the range, you can't give a range unless you're in the horse world. You can't give a range of $200,000. You got to bring it in for them. And the more stable your market, the more close those numbers are going to be, because some neighborhoods, within about 40,000, right? Others, it might be within 75,000 or something, but that range shouldn't be a huge gap. It should be a feasible gap. And you go, well, I mean, here we are at this price range. And most of them get that.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yeah.
How do you, when you first go in, first appointment, are you showing them through, CMA, through the Smart MLS type of thing, or not?
I am not. I was trained by an agent out of Coldwell Banker in Colorado who She said, Sky, the easiest way to do a CMA is on a piece of paper with a line. And you put these properties and you say, we've got 3 properties in your neighborhood that just sold. Here they are. And this one, this one, this one. This one had granite countertops. This one had this one had that. First of all, that helps me establish my range of what I'm going to say they should be in, right? And she said, clients will almost never ask you to see those homes. They've either already looked them up, they know them in their neighborhood, they know exactly the house you're talking about, it's right down the street or it's right around the corner, or they're really not that interested. They just want to hear your logic of, why are you pricing my house there or there? And so they may argue with you and be like, well, I have granite in my basement bathroom. And you're like, yeah, but there's Formica in the kitchen. And, and if they start to argue with you, you can say, okay, well, I am more than happy. And I've done this too. I'm more than happy to follow up and I'll send you those properties I mentioned. And you can take a look at the photos online and you can tell me which one you think you're more like, and we can have this discussion down the road if I'm wrong. Because remember, I'm not giving them a price at the table either. So
right.
the CMA,
That's what I'm saying. When you first go there, like for me, first appointment, you know, they're saying, met at an open house, saying, oh, my house has this, my house has that. It must be more, you know, going in for home estimation type of thing, obviously. And so I guess my point is exactly like, am I just saying, you know, obviously, you know, your neighbor's house and it just sold, blah, 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 and giving them some details, but not actually giving them a price, obviously, at the first going. But what would I be presenting? So presenting more an evaluation of their home is really how you look at it.
yes.
Okay.
Every home is a custom home, in my opinion.
Okay.
They've all got something different.
Right. I agree. Yeah, that's a good way.
And if your client needs and wants all that, provide it, right? Going back to the prepping for all this, you have to meet your client with where they are and what they need.
Do you
So if
speak
they
with them
need it-
about, would you speak with them prior to meeting with them about information or no?
Not in my experience. In my
Okay.
experience, the first phone call is quite short usually.
Okay.
They're calling, they're saying they're thinking about getting on the market. They're really not sure. Could I come out and meet them and take a look? Sometimes.
Do you send something prior?
No, only during COVID when I have the packet. If I'm worried that the appointment's way out, I might. And I have, if I called an expired and the expired is willing to give me an appointment, I send them the listing packet in advance.
Okay, no, this is someone, I'm just saying, someone first time met at an open house, wants a home estimation. I'm feeling like all this pressure, you know, I'm working with someone else who's experienced, so that's not really, but I'm trying to learn.
I want my foot in the door.
Okay,
So I don't
Once you
give
get-
away much until I've got my foot in the door.
gotcha.
I might send a note, a handwritten
Of course,
note,
of
something on
course.
that line, but not normally a packet, not normally a CMA. It's very easy to dismiss a CMA. If you don't like the number, it's harder to dismiss a person in your house who's willing to explain and willing to communicate why they think
Right.
they are and willing to admit they might be wrong. If you admit you're wrong and say, well, obviously I need to redo
Right.
this, and based on your home being so much nicer than these
Right.
comps, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, Ed. You know, you get different opinions, so that's why I'm trying to get as many opinions.
Absolutely. I'm noting that it is after time of getting out of here. So anyone who needs to leave, please do. I'm happy to stay on an extra couple of minutes. I'll put my info in the chat. I know Diane wanted the listing presentation booklet, which I'm happy to share with
I'll take that as well.
Yeah, thank you, Sky.
If you guys,
Thank
that's
you.
my email.
And if you can send me the listing presentation, I'll send you an email with my emails. If you can send that to
I'd
me.
say, and that's it. And there's my cell. If you guys just email or text me your info, and then preferably your address. I'll mail these out to you guys so you all have a copy of it, and can take a look at what it is.
All right. Like
Any
the
other
actual
questions?
address,
I'm
like the
happy to
home
stay
address?
on. Yep. Sorry?
I'm sorry, like the home address?
Yes,
Like you said, you can send
or
us
your
info?
office address if you love picking up mail at the office, wherever you like getting your mail.
No, it's just so funny to hear that, you know, an actual home address. An email. I'm like, my actual
I want my
address,
foot in
like,
the door. I told you.
Hey, there you go. You meant it. Thank you so much, Sky. I gotta run.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was great. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad it's helpful.
Bye, everybody.
I'm going to stay on a second because.
I'd say, yeah, keep asking questions. I just didn't want to take anyone's time. I know there's other things happening out there today too. So if you had another thing to be at, I don't want to hold anyone back and, you know, keep that out. So.
No, like I said, if I've picked people's brains, it's great. Everybody, you know, it's interesting because every agent has such a different, generally the same take, but you know, like you say, I think you have to be you and you have to present yourself as an individual. But so you were saying that you normally don't with the pre-list. I'm getting a little nervous. I got to send them something before, but you don't. Obviously, I'm not talking about communicating, but as far as a packet or for anything beforehand, you're saying bring it to the table when I'm there with them in person.
Or you can definitely email them the entire folder with the people you work with, the listing presentation. I would not send them the documents yet because you want to explain those pieces. But if you just,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes, yes, I have been known to email them the listing booklet just to give them kind of a, here I'm coming. Or, you know, and a note like, thanks so much for booking the appointment. I'll look forward to seeing you on June 17th at 2 p.m. You know.
Now, since you're gonna be mailing that listing booklet for a listing booklet, what would you recommend? Obviously, I understand what you're saying as far as having the documents there and all. Just more stuff about you and about your company and things like that, more in the pre-listing type of thing.
So guys, I am so sorry to have to
That's
interrupt before, but we do actually need the Zoom room for
Forget it.
into our
And
tech.
Renee, feel free to give me a call. I'm happy to discuss.
No problem.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't want to make it a one-on-one.
Yep. No, that's cool. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
So anyone who's here for 2 o'clock tech with Joe, Joe is going to start in just about 30 seconds. Anybody not? Joe's still going to start in 30 seconds.
All right. We'll see Joe in 30 seconds.
Yeah, I am here. So